Hi, everyone. I'm Rhonda Ellis.
And I'm Melissa Sutton. And this is Cultivating a Home,
the podcast. This is a place where we will talk about what really matters: growing in our walk with Christ, building strong marriages, raising our children with intention, and creating peaceful, life-giving homes centered on Him.
We'll share practical encouragement, real-life stories, and biblical truth to help you cultivate a heart and home that reflects Jesus. New episodes are every Thursday, so let's step into today's conversation together.
We're just so glad you're here. We got a great show in store for you.
We are. We're so excited that everybody is here. And today we are going to be talking about cultivating peace in our home. A lot of women today say that they feel like their home is chaotic and disorganized, and they're wanting to get advice and tips on what they can do to make the foundation of their home peaceful. What is some advice that you can give?
Ooh, that's a great question. A lot of ladies feel overwhelmed. They feel like they just don't have it together. And on many levels, from the laundry to the relationships within the home, like kids are fighting or they can't get things organized, and meal prep is so hard, and they just feel overwhelmed in general. And you know what? That's exactly why the ministry Cultivating a Home started years ago. Probably more than 30 years ago. I had 2 little children, and I looked at my husband and I said, "Don't you see? I don't have it together."
Right.
And it was a really crazy reaction of mine. But at the core of it was I felt like I couldn't get anything done. And here I have these kids, and I wasn't feeding them well. I wasn't keeping the house clean. And so what I did was I wrote down a list of everything I could think of that I wanted to learn about how to have a peaceful home and how to get meals ready and how to have friendships, better friendships, and how to have a better marriage and how to organize my home. Just anything I could think of that was a point of something I needed to learn. It was a quite extensive list. And then I began looking around at our church and asking different people, who do you know that's good in this area? And I asked them to come over and speak one topic at a time, and just different ladies that became mentors in my life. Even if they weren't one-on-one mentors with me, they spoke into my life at that season. And I began slowly incorporating these different things the ladies taught me. And my home began to change because I began to change. And one of the biggest areas that I began to grow and still do today is spiritually. I invite Christ to come into where I am at that season, and even on a daily basis. Lord, you know my heart. You designed me. You know my strengths and my weaknesses. And you know every family member, their makeup, their fears, their failures, the things that they're good at, and things that their natural sin nature that they struggle with. And I began to ask Him, could you help me know that child so well and create a little plan for them of molding them? And so I began to observe things like 2 of our kids arguing. Well, what were they arguing about? This one wanted their way and tended to be selfish. This one tended to also be selfish, because aren't we all? But it looked different. One had reactions of outbursts, and the other one might hit. And so that creates a very chaotic home, doesn't it?
Right.
And so I began to use scripture to teach them on those topics towards their sin nature, and looked at the root of things. So part of having a peaceful home is studying those in your family and ourselves, and inviting the Lord to show us what areas we need to grow in and what's at the root of it. And I say it always begins with us.
Right.
And I ask the Lord always, even still today, Lord, would you reveal blind spots that I have, reveal reactions that I have that are creating chaos or fear in my home and change me. Prick my heart when I am about to or when I have done something that has hurt another individual or doesn't honor you. And just show me those things. And as we begin to grow closer to God, we can spill our peaceful countenance over into our children. So you asked the question, what are some of the core things about it? I think our walk with the Lord is so important because He's the one that can help us identify things that are chaotic, things that are sinful, that are not glorifying to Him. And He's the one that can change our hearts into producing beauty and calmness in how we operate. So Christ is the center of this.
For sure. I love that. And you said that when you asked Him in different scenarios, okay, Lord, give me wisdom. My home is feeling disorganized. You went to your husband and said, I don't have it together. And so you began to pray and you began to ask people to help you in different areas, friendships, organizing your home, meal prep. But the foundation of all of it was, Lord, I need you.
Right.
And I need you to help me in all these areas. And you are the foundation of our home. And I want to have a peaceful home. Everybody wants to have a peaceful home. Nobody says, I want to have a chaotic home. I want to have a home that's a mess. So what are some ways that He gave you to get organized and have peace?
One of the things that I think is kind of interesting is He showed me that image was at the core of some of my operations. So I was adding pressure to myself that was not, it was so unimportant and was really the wrong focus. So I remember very clearly working to break any form of, am I doing this for image? Such as I had the forks and the spoons in the drawer and I had them stacked nicely.
Right.
So I remember there being a specific time that I opened that big drawer of all of our silverware and I just kind of took my fingers and like spread them out within the section that each went. And I was like, that is not important because what am I going to do as the kids got older and they were very little at the time. They were 3 and under or 4 and under maybe. But am I going to be frustrated that they then didn't carry on stacking each fork neatly? What's the goal? The goal is put them in the right place so that we know where they are the next time we need silverware, right? So that's such a silly example, but clearly I remember it 30-something years later because God was working on me and the standards I was setting in the home. Now, I think organization is extremely important, but is perfection? And so that's just one little simple way of doing that.
Right. Again, it comes back to us and it comes back to our heart and it comes back to the Lord revealing things in our own life to get us to where we need to be and then moving on from there. Not starting with, okay, I've got to get my house in order. I've got to get these people in order. But Lord, I need to get myself in order. And then from there, you can start establishing that foundation. Okay, so we are going to talk about establishing a foundation of love, patience, and grace. Can you give some examples of how you've been able to do that?
That's another good one. So there's a phrase I like to use called people over things.
Right.
And I think if you were to ask my kids today, who are all 20 and over, they would be able to recite that phrase and I think they use it on a daily basis. And what it means is people are more important than things.
Right.
So once you have that in your mind, it really is something you can think about on a daily basis, particularly when you have other people in your home, because things mess up. So for example, I remember implementing this when we were at a table eating and somebody spilled a glass of milk or water. You know, I'd like to say milk because the phrase, don't cry over spilled milk.
Right, literally.
That's more fun than don't cry over spilled water, which it's not as big of a mess to clean up. But somebody spilled something. And you know what? Anytime something happens in your home where you have an opportunity to react one way or the other, if you continue to train yourself of the importance of every reaction, you are in essence choosing each time to make a chaotic home one where kids are fearful, one where people walk around on eggshells, or you are creating the dynamics that you're aiming for, which is peace.
Right.
And so the drink spilled, and you know what? I wanted my reaction to be, what's the goal here? The goal is clean it up. And so we began to teach our children that from a very young age. So no matter what age your kids are, start teaching now. When something spills at the table, the goal is just clean it up. We don't even need to really react.
Yeah.
It's just get up, get a towel, clean it up. And the conversation, as your children continue to age and mature, you can apply this same principle of people, meaning I care about the people in my home and the atmosphere I'm creating more than I care about spilled milk.
Right.
And a reaction to it and punishing or being passive aggressive or angry or any of those things. I simply want them to know how to fix the problem that just happened.
Yeah.
And so what's a really neat thing to do is as they age, you kind of add to this principle where you might have guests in your home and you're eating together and the guest spills something and your kids are trained then from living it out in your home that one person just, without anybody talking, one person just gets up, gets a towel, cleans it up, motions to the person, no worries, no problem at all. And the other family members are simply concentrating on the story that your guest is sharing and keeping them engaged in conversation, like asking them another question while the tea is being cleaned up.
Yeah.
And so you're demonstrating and living out that person, your guest, and what they have to say and them being in your home and the love you're showing to them is far more important than anything that's spilled.
Yeah, that's good.
And so that's what people over things means. And it's not just while you're eating. Your kids threw a ball in the house, which they shouldn't have done. They've been taught not to do that, but they did it and it knocked a picture off the mantle. And this is a real example. I had a home business in my home.
Right.
And therefore, and I was homeschooling. And so I had an assistant who kind of helped keep everything together and allowed me to be somewhat balanced.
Yeah.
So she was watching the kids one day and I was in the office in my house working and a ball was thrown and a large picture that was on the mantle fell off and it broke the frame or it broke the glass. I can't even remember what it was.
Yeah.
But people over things.
Yeah.
And so when she came to tell me about it, she still today, so this is 30 years later, maybe 20 something years later, she will bring up this example and say she was shocked that how everybody responded to it, particularly me when she told me, because people over things.
Yeah.
What did we need to fix? Well, the kids disobeyed. So they shouldn't have thrown the ball in there, but it's a picture.
Yeah.
So anyway, it just applies to so much. I remember a friend getting a new car. It was a teenager at the time. She got a new car and her brother spilled something and she was so upset with him. And my kids said, people over things.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, you want the people riding in your car to not walk on eggshells, but you also want them to be respectful. So, you know, there's both sides of that to teach your children and to operate in your own way. But we don't want to value a prize of a possession so much that it has more power over us and makes us angry when something goes wrong with it.
Yeah. And a simple phrase like that, and it takes root and it helps our kids because then when their sibling breaks their toy or when their sibling messes up their room or whatever, immediately that phrase comes to mind and it has taken root. And even when they get older and maybe something happens at work or something happens to a material possession like you were talking about, that simple phrase has taken root and they've seen mom not freak out when something spills, not freak out when a picture gets broken off the mantle. And because of the example, they use it in their own life. That's really good. Okay, in talking about chaos and maybe some disorganization that's going on in the home and trying to regain peace, What about giving yourself grace? We talked about giving our kids grace, people over things. What about giving ourselves grace during maybe different seasons of chaos?
Okay, well, that certainly, there's a lot of times in our lives where we need to do that. And probably many people listening are in a season right now with that, such as you just had a new baby.
Right.
And maybe you had a new baby and you even have the personality type where asking for help or allowing people to help is difficult. That's an area to grow in. You'll see such beauty when you let people help. It develops deeper friendships. There's a real beauty in being transparent and being vulnerable with people. And everybody needs help. And who wants somebody to have it all together? That really is not that encouraging.
Right. Or helpful. Right.
Yeah. So it could be that. And I remember having to learn to give myself grace at that time frame. I remember learning something called planned neglect.
Okay.
And what it meant was I was planning to neglect something of lesser priority to do something of greater priority, such as I was overwhelmed. And so rather than sweeping up the food that might be Cheerios on the floor or whatever,
Right.
I was planning to neglect doing that twice a day. And in its place, I was putting something of greater importance, such as sitting still and playing with the kids, playing Legos with them, or rocking a baby, or even for my own health, mental health, physical health, or whatever, planning that I needed time to rest. And therefore, the sweeping, the mopping, or whatever could take place once a day or even once a week, depending on the amount of crumbs you have on your floor.
Yeah.
But I was planning to neglect something and also in the same process, learning to let go of an unrealistic standard that just added pressure to myself. And as my kids got older, it would have added a lot of pressure to them.
Yeah.
But keeping my mind on what's the goal here? The goal is a clean house, not perfect, but one that feels clean, feels orderly, and where my focus is my family.
Right.
Right? So that's just one example.
That's really good. And you planned it. You said, I'm not going to do it twice a day. I'm going to do it maybe once a day, maybe at the end of the day. And that is a clean house. It's not perfect. It's lived in, but that's a good way to show yourself grace. That's really good. What about creating manageable systems that might work for your family? Like you talked about before, meal prep, maybe things like chores. What are some manageable ways that can take place?
That's a doozy.
Yeah.
I feel like maybe my own experience and what I hear from other ladies is laundry is one of the things that wants to put people over the deep end.
Sure.
And so some systems with that, it's going to vary from person to person. Some people like to throw a load of laundry in each morning when they get up. For other people, to them, they forget to do it and then they forget to take it out of the washer and put it in the dryer. And so then they have more work because now they have to rewash it again. So it's determining what rhythm works for your life and not comparing to the next person, but what works for you. And even within my own daughters and daughters-in-law, their families, their systems are different.
Yeah.
And the key is to know your threshold of, okay, when it gets this much, I am so overwhelmed. I can't manage. It's too much. So breaking that down and think, well, how can I handle it? And like I said, for some, it's throwing in laundry every morning and that works well for them. And for others, it's, you know what, I can do 4 loads on this particular day because this is the easiest day I have that rhythm would work to keep it going. Setting an alarm on your phone to make sure you keep it going, or you do it around the rhythms of your day that are natural, such as if you have nap time for the kids, okay, I'm going to change the laundry to the next cycle when I lay them down. And then, right before dinner, is having some kind of pattern that works for you. But something that I found to be really helpful is if the laundry could be washed, dried, hung, and folded in the same time frame.
Yeah.
And also in the same location.
Mm-hmm.
Some people do like to take their laundry, clean, dry laundry, and put it in their den and then fold it there. That's fine. If part of the process is then it all goes to the correct rooms.
Right.
But if part of your personality and your system is it stays there, I mean, take a realistic look at it.
Mm-hmm.
You can think back that's me. If it just stays there, then that's not it's really chaos in any way is taken away from peace. So it's not a peaceful place for everybody to be if there's laundry all around. I like to think of every room as having a purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And if the laundry is taking the place of everybody being able to sit around and enjoy the couches and watching TV together or being together, then maybe take a look at that system and change it to something different. So I like to fold it in the laundry room, but I have a daughter that lives in San Francisco and she does not have a laundry room.
Yeah.
I have a daughter that lives in Philadelphia. She has a closet on the 3rd floor where there's a stack washer and dryer. So that's not possible for her either. But if you do have a laundry room with the capability of folding it in there, we used to have a laundry basket, a little like 12-inch high by 10-inch wide basket per family member.
Yeah.
And things would get folded, put right into their basket. And even when I'm folding things, I found this little technique to be helpful. Some of you might be thinking, that's the most dumbest thing ever because duh, but I've seen this really help people.
Yeah.
I even fold things and stack them in the order that they're like things together, like jeans are together and t-shirts are together. That way it makes putting it away easier. And anything you can do that's more efficient helps with your time. It helps with having a peaceful home. Like underwear folded and socks can go on top of that. And then as your children get older, they can wash clothes themselves, fold them themselves. But even at a younger age, you can take the basket with the child and teach them how to put it away.
Yeah.
But that way the laundry is done and it just doesn't keep lingering on for days and days and you feel like it never has an end.
Right.
So that is a little
and trying to
something.
simplify a chore.
Yes.
It has to be done. So let's simplify it in a way. I'm picturing when you talked about folding clothes in the living room or in the den, I'm picturing it really also depends on your season of life and your kids' ages. I'm picturing like when I had tiny kids and if I had folded laundry in the living room and then my kids are like picking up clothes and they're on like go do it in your room, do it during nap time but simplify it to where it doesn't end up being more work than it's supposed to be. Okay. What about hospitality? And you talked about not perfection, your image, and the Lord really dealing with our hearts about that. And you talked about, okay, we're going to clean maybe once a day the floor, the crumbs off the floor. What about like having people over, hospitality, trying to be, that kind of mom that also wants to have people over, have friends over? What about simplifying and hosting and having people over into your home?
I love to talk about hospitality. There's so much to learn and so many things as we learn that we can pass on to our kids. It's really a wonderful thing for me to see now with adult children that every single one of them enjoys having people in their home. And I love that because that was something that I was very intentional about. And so not everything that you're intentional about works out, but it is really sweet to see that. So one of the things that was like foundational for me was I didn't want the children to hate preparing for someone to come over. And so I tried to guard my tone and the way that I communicated with them and also what the motive was. Okay. So I didn't want them to hear things like, hurry up, people are coming over, or you've got to clean it really well because guests are coming, because then the motive becomes our image.
Right.
And what we hope people think about our home or our food or our whatever, our family, versus how can we make that person feel loved and feel comfortable while accomplishing some of the cleaning that does need to take place.
Right.
So some of the things that we did were I would write a list. We had a spiral notebook that it was ongoing, always put things to do on there with a little circle in the left column for a check mark to be placed. And I would just look around the house and try to accomplish the basic things, but not make it seem like it was all because somebody's coming over.
Sure.
In other words, we'd let go of a lot of things too, like fingerprints on the glass. Sometimes we'd clean that before a guest, sometimes not. I'd kind of judge it according to how the tone felt. Like, did it seem like I was trying to make it extra nice for a particular guest?
Yeah.
Well, I didn't want the kids to feel that. But a lot of the training behind the scenes with the kids, meaning the conversations that we had prior to guests coming over, was about, I would tell them about this person and things I admired about this person. And we would practice with, what are some questions based on what you now know about this person that what could you ask this person? Like, maybe you know that they've been to Hawaii. So what could you ask them to show interest in this person?
Yeah.
And so we'd go over some things like that so that when we were at the table eating, they would speak up and they would ask a question and they learned to listen and not ask the next question before the answer was made. It also was a great way to teach each child, no matter their temperament, because I definitely have some more outgoing than others and some that would rather just listen or maybe even not listen, maybe get up from the table and run around. But this way, also part of our training was teaching them to be about the other person, no matter their own temperament, teaching them questions to ask, teaching them how to be engaged. Also, like I said before, people over things. That meant if something unexpected happened, it didn't matter. People over things. And another thing is, again, go back and think about what standard are you creating? Are you running around the house telling everybody to make sure there's vacuum lines on the carpet and don't go in that room? And you're creating like such a frenzy that nobody's even enjoying having people over because it was all about image.
Yeah.
Right? And we used to have, like I mentioned, a home business. And it was one where people came over and they scrapbooked. So we would set up tables and we had snacks. We had dinner for people that were going to scrapbook from 6 to midnight.
Oh, yes.
Called a crop until you drop.
Oh, yes.
And it was very fun. But it was great to have this in my home.
Yeah.
Because it was something, a practical application of things we learned. And so the kids would put, like the little ones would put bathroom this way, put a sign with an arrow on it, and they would put it on the wall crooked.
Right.
Now, I could have straightened it out, but I didn't because they were helping. And I was also breaking that perfectionist tendency. And I wanted them to enjoy being a part of prepping for people to come over. And also when the kids were little, they were taught to greet at the door and say, "May I take your purse?" And then they would, carry their coat or their purse and set it in a location. But they learned to have eye contact and to say, "Welcome here. I'm glad you're here," and things like that. And I could talk a lot about hospitality. Another thing is it's so good to have some never run out items, such as brownie mix, boxed brownie mix, or cookie dough or something like that, where you can make things last minute. And like for a brownie, I make them and freeze them. I cut them up in squares and I have them in the freezer. And then when company comes over, you can heat it up for like 30 seconds, put chocolate fudge on it, and then a scoop of ice cream, and you look like...
call it a day.
You look like, wow.
Yeah.
Like we made that person feel so special. And honey, that been in a freezer.
Well, and that is adding peace to your home, because instead of freaking out because people are coming over, I got to go to the store, I got to go do this, you have it ready. You can just grab it. You have stuff already prepared, and that helps with having a peaceful home.
Absolutely.
Rhonda, thank you so much. This was a great episode, and we can't wait to see everybody next time.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks for spending this time with us today. We hope you're walking away encouraged and equipped with something simple you can put into practice right where you are. Remember, it's the small, faithful choices that shape the atmosphere of your home. So wherever you are today, keep cultivating hearts and homes for Christ.